Turn-based JRPGs have come a very long way. From classics like Earthbound to modern masterpieces like Metaphor ReFantazio, they just keep pushing the genre forward today. So whether you've been playing these games for decades or if you're just now discovering them, these are definitely 10 modern turn-based JRPGs you absolutely need to check out. So let's start off with Atelier Resleriana, the Red Alchemist and the White Guardian, the latest entry into the long-running Atelier franchise and the perfect place to start this list. I've been playing Atelier for years, and after playing Resleriana, it's easily one of my favorites. This entry just recently released wears the Atelier name proudly, and while it might seem like a step back, it actually works out really well. It has richer world building, the narrative has a stronger presence, and its alchemy system reminds me of the Atelier games that I grew up with. Now, you can't talk about an Atelier game without talking about the alchemy. Resleriana refines that classic alchemy loop of gather materials, synthesize those materials into something better, and become more powerful, be it from strong items or better equipment. I especially loved how approachable the systems are. If you've never played an Atelier before, you won't be overwhelmed by complicated mechanics, but longtime fans will still appreciate the depth and familiarity of the alchemy system. You still have that trait inheritance, optimization, and that satisfying aha moments when a crafted item turns out to be exactly what you needed. I love how it kind of nudges you to experiment without punishing you for it. Though items being expendable is a bit of a step back from Ryza, but it doesn't feel terrible. Speaking of stepping back, the combat kind of retracts a bit in comparison to Yumiya and Ryza, where the Ryza and Yumiya games used an ATB semi-action battle system, which I know a lot of people complained about. Resleriana is strictly turn-based, but involves combining items and skills to keep it interesting. I was pleasantly surprised because I adore turn-based battle systems. If you're a longtime Atelier fan, you'll love the newest entry in the franchise. And if you're new to the franchise, it's a great entry to start with. Regardless, you're sure to enjoy it, which is why I fully believe this is a modern turn-based JRPG that you have to sink your teeth into. Now, if Atelier Resleriana represents cozy creativity, Shin Megami Tensei V is the complete opposite. A brutal post-apocalyptic test of strategy and perseverance. This is a game that doesn't hold your hand, but if you stick with it, few RPGs are as rewarding. You play as an ordinary student whose life is turned upside down when Tokyo collapses into a twisted alternate world called Dot, a barren wasteland crawling with angels, demons, and gods all fighting for dominance. When you fuse with a mysterious being known as Algami, you become the Nahobino, a forbidden entity with the power to shape the fate of both worlds. Yes, it sounds very cringy, but it's amazing. It's classic Shin Megami Tensei, heavy themes, moral choices where no answer feels more correct than the other, and a story that pulls you deeper the more that you play. On top of that, the Vengeance re-release features a whole second story that is just as amazing as the original. However, where Shin Megami Tensei V really shines is the combat. If you've ever played Persona or Metaphor, you know exactly what to expect. It's incredibly rewarding with being able to gain extra turns by hitting weaknesses, but at the same time, it's incredibly punishing if you don't defend your own weaknesses. It's got that perfect balance to keep every fight fun, and it gets even more intense when it comes to boss fights. You'll constantly be thinking 3 steps ahead, balancing buffs, debuffs, and party synergy to survive. I think what really made me love Shin Megami Tensei V was the demon collecting. Every enemy you fight can potentially become an ally if you can convince them through negotiation. It almost feels like a more mature Pokemon. Sometimes they'll ask questions, other times they'll demand bribes, or just see how you respond in certain situations. It's unpredictable, a little chaotic, but it's incredibly addictive, even if sometimes it does feel like RNG. Then, these demons that you can get through battles, you can actually fuse them together into completely new ones, opening up endless possibilities for building your ideal team. Shin Megami Tensei V is not for everyone. It's challenging, it's dark, and it demands your patience. But if you're looking for a pure strategy turn-based RPG experience, few games come this close. It's the kind of game that will push you to the edge. And when you finally overcome a brutal boss or craft the perfect demon team, that victory actually feels earned. At least until the very end, where you become insanely overpowered with the literal gods as party members. Now you have some RPGs that chase innovation with flashy mechanics and cutting-edge visuals. Now Sea of Stars takes a different approach. It looks backward, and it takes the spirit of those 16-bit era RPGs and somehow creates something that feels timeless. And yes, before we jump into Sea of Stars, I know it isn't an actual JRPG. It was developed in Canada, but its style is close enough. If you grew up on games like Chrono Trigger, Golden Sun, or the early Final Fantasy titles, this game will feel incredibly familiar, for better or for worse, depending how you look at it. And if you didn't grow up with those games, it's the perfect introduction to what made those classics so memorable. In Sea of Stars, you follow the two children of the solstice, Valere and Zale, who wield the powers of the sun and moon to take on a world threatened by monsters known as dwellers. At first glance, it feels like a simple heroes versus evil story, but the writing surprisingly hits really hard. The characters are warm and funny, and as the journey unfolds, it becomes about friendship and sacrifice, though this is mostly about the supporting characters. My only real concern was about how shallow the two main characters are. Seriously, they develop in like the first hour of the game, and then that's it. There's no real change. Now, I haven't played the DLC at this point, so I don't know if there's more character development there, but for the main game, it was kind of bland. Then you have the combat. It's very Chrono Trigger-like, except it involves time button presses to enhance the effects of your attacks, with both solo text and combo text between characters, which is nice because it encourages you to use different party compositions. Outside of combat, I really enjoyed the exploring. Unlike many retro-inspired games, Sea of Stars feels seamless and fluid. There's no random encounters, there's no clunky menus slowing you down. However, my favorite aspect has to be the puzzles. Unlike most modern RPGs, Sea of Stars is full of puzzles. Now, they aren't difficult, but they are a nice break from the regular dungeon crawling. Then there's a soundtrack. It's composed partly by Chrono Trigger legend Yasunori Mitsuda. It's just a joy to listen to. Every track perfectly matches the mood. You could be exploring a peaceful village or fighting a killer boss. Regardless, the soundtrack matches it perfectly. If you want a game that is approachable, emotional, full of adventure, Sea of Stars is a must-play. It's proof that classic design can still feel fresh, and sometimes looking back is the best way to move forward.
Right, let's do this! You're done for, pal!
Yeah, I know, Shinky's talking about Bravely Default 2 again. What can I say? I love it, and everyone needs the opportunity to play it. Anyways, if you've ever wished for a modern game that truly captures the spirit of classic Final Fantasy, Bravely Default 2 is it. This game is a love letter to the golden era of turn-based JRPGs, while also throwing in some twists to make it unique. In Bravely Default 2, you follow the adventures of Seth, a shipwrecked sailor who gets swept up in a quest involving 4 elemental crystals. Yes, I know, it sounds familiar, but that's the point. Along the way, he's joined by a princess in hiding, a wandering scholar, and a strange mercenary. It's a story structure that feels classic and comfortable, but the characters bring a warmth and humor that keeps it engaging. It's like a bedtime story for longtime JRPG fans. Familiar, yet it does have its own surprises. The real magic, though, of this game lies in its battle system, which takes traditional turn-based combat and throws in a few loops to keep it exciting and strategic. The Brave and Default system lets you bank actions by defending or spending them all at once for a burst of attacks. There's a delicate balance between saving attacks or blowing them all in one turn. And then of course there's the job system, my very favorite mechanic in any JRPG ever. It's a clear nod to Final Fantasy games like V and Tactics. You can mix and match roles like Black Mage, Thief, or Monk, and eventually unlock wild combinations that completely change how you approach combat. It's endlessly customizable, and it gives you a sense of ownership over your whole party. Few things are as satisfying as figuring out that completely broken combination that will carry you through the rest of the game. And if you've been around my channel, you know I can't talk about Bravely Default 2 without mentioning the soundtrack. The soundtrack of Bravely Default 2 was composed by Rev, the very same composer behind the original Bravely Default, and it's incredible. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Bravely Default and Bravely Default 2 have some of the greatest soundtracks to ever exist in any piece of media ever. Bravely Default 2 is a rare occasion of where it tries to recapture the original magic of JRPGs while making it feel modern, and it works. It's the kind of game that feels instantly nostalgic, even if it's your first time playing. With all this being said, I actually have a review for Bravely Default 2 on the channel, so maybe check that out after you're done with today's video. After the grand scope of games like Bravely Default 2 and Shin Megami Tensei V, let's take a step back and highlight a hidden indie gem that deserves way more attention. Quartet. I reviewed this game recently and I absolutely adored every aspect of the game. Another case of not actually a JRPG, but it's of the same style, so I'm going to include it. The name Quartet comes from its structure, 4 separate stories, each following a different pair of characters. At the start, you play these storylines separately, kind of like Wild Arms, learning about the world and each pair in a more personal manner. Eventually, the threads of the 4 stories intertwine, and the characters come together for one huge, unified adventure. It's a fantastic narrative hook, kind of like Octopath Traveler, but with way tighter pacing and actual connections between the characters. The combat is classic turn-based, but with a huge focus on team synergy. Each character has unique skills, and they interact with others, so you're constantly experimenting with different types of character combinations. The battles strike a perfect balance. It's approachable for newcomers, yet challenging enough to keep veterans engaged. And if perchance the battles are too challenging for you, you can always adjust the difficulty. Something Classic really thought of everything with this game. And what makes it even better is they are constantly updating the game and looking at user feedback to make it an even better experience. What really makes Quartet special though is its character-driven storytelling. Each protagonist has a different personality and arc, and the writing is surprisingly funny at times without undercutting all the emotions. Because you spend time with these smaller, more intimate storylines early on, you really feel invested when it all comes together in the later chapters. If I had to compare it to anything, Quartet gave me that exact same feeling as games I grew up with, like Grandia and Lunar. That's a feeling I don't get much these days, so it was nice to experience it all over again. If you've been craving something that captures the classic Super Nintendo or early PS1 JRPGs, but with modern polish and smart storytelling, Quartet is an absolute must-play. It may not have the budget of a big studio release, but it has heart and creativity in spades. And honestly, that's just as important. I miss the 90s, specifically those Saturday mornings where I'd wake up super early to watch Digimon. It's a core memory of mine that I'll never forget. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is a fantastic turn-based RPG in its own right, and honestly, it's probably the best Digimon game in existence. It's stylish, it's story-driven, and surprisingly deep, making it one of the best monster collecting RPGs you can play today. I've been a Digimon fan for as long as I can remember. Like I said, I remember waking up early on Saturday mornings to watch the cartoon. I remember collecting the comic books. I remember the Digimon cards. Such a huge memory, and having a game based on this was amazing. The story takes place in a near future where the real world and digital world are deeply interwoven. You play as a protagonist who gets trapped between both worlds after a mysterious event, and from there, you're pulled into a mystery involving hackers, rogue Digimon, and some strange deaths. It has this cool cyberpunk meets anime vibe that makes it stand out from other monster RPGs. The combat system is classic turn-based, with a team of 3 Digimon, but the real depth comes from team building and evolution. There are over 200 Digimon to collect in the main game, and that's increased to over 300 if you play Hacker's Memory. And unlike some monster games where evolutions are linear, here, they branch out into almost infinite possibilities. Your cute little rookie Digimon could eventually evolve into wildly different ultimate forms depending on how you choose its stats. This means every choice you make, from stat growth to skill inheritance, directly shapes your team. It's endlessly rewarding to experiment with, especially when you discover a combo that completely wrecks a difficult boss. What sets Cyber Sleuth apart is how it blends detective work with monster collecting. Between battles, you're solving mysteries, questioning NPCs, and diving into dangerous digital dungeons. I love murder mysteries, and I love Digimon, so combining the two was almost like a match made in heaven for yours truly. The pacing makes it feel like a JRPG mixed with a detective thriller, which makes the story more engaging than just a string of battles. And if you love the experience, there's more. Hacker's Memory. It's like a pseudo-sequel that tells the story from a different point of view and gives more details on the whole experience. It's almost like playing the other half of a puzzle, and together these two games form one of the most complete Digimon RPG experiences ever created. Even if you've never touched the IP, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is incredibly approachable. It has the nostalgia factor for longtime Digimon fans such as myself, but the systems are deep enough to stand alongside classics like Pokemon or even Shin Megami Tensei. Now is the perfect time to play these games too, because we just got a new Digimon story game out yesterday, Time Stranger, and it's looking even better than this. Whether you want to relive your childhood or dive into a new monster collecting obsession, Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory are absolutely worth your time.
Try and see through this.
Next up is Trails Through Daybreak, a game that's perfect for you if you love deep stories and immersive worlds. The Trails series has long been known for its meticulous attention to detail. Sometimes there's too much attention to detail, and Daybreak continues that tradition. Every corner of the game has value, from the tiny details in bustling towns to the intricate political conflicts that ripple across the various kingdoms. If you've never played a Trails game before, this one is a great entry point because it balances complexity with accessibility. I know story-wise people are going to disagree with me, but it is what it is. The story follows the mercenary Van, just trying to live his life as he gets sucked into a much larger and deeper story. What makes it special is the way it blends large-scale political intrigue with personal, character-driven moments. You will spend just as much time uncovering secrets about your companions as you will battling monsters or exploring dungeons, and those relationships genuinely matter as the story progresses. Trails Through Daybreak, I personally think, has some of the most interesting character relationships in the entire franchise. Exploration in the world of Trails Through Daybreak is what makes me want to suggest this game. There's hidden areas, there's tons of optional quests, there's rich lore that makes every step of the journey significant. The world is alive with NPCs, each with their own schedules and dialogue, creating a sense of immersion that very few RPGs can match. And the soundtrack complements all of this beautifully. Falcom is known for having amazing soundtracks. For longtime JRPG fans, Trails Through Daybreak is classic Trails at its best. Deep, thoughtful, and endlessly rewarding. For newcomers, it's approachable. Yeah, sure, you're jumping into a story like 10 games in. 10 games in? Many games in, but you're still able to get invested. By the time you finish your first chapter, you're not just invested in the story, you're invested in the world, the characters, and every choice you make within it. Okay, so let's jump into a very long-running series. Next up is Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince, a game that takes the classic charm of the Dragon Quest series and pairs it with a monster collecting twist that's equally strategic and addictive. Dragon Quest is one of my favorite series of all time, and if you grew up loving the series' whimsical worlds and memorable creatures like I did, this game is a dream come true, and even newcomers can jump right in. You play as a mysterious young hero with the ability to befriend and summon monsters. Okay, he isn't that mysterious. Especially if you're a Dragon Quest IV fan, you get to play as Sorrow, questionably the best villain in the entire franchise. The story is classic Dragon Quest. Clear stakes, heroic quests, plenty of charming moments, but the focus on monsters adds a new layer of strategy and personalization. Every character, every creature you encounter isn't just a battle tool. They're a companion with strengths, weaknesses, and unique abilities that impact how you approach the game. Combat is turn-based, but unlike typical JRPGs, the strategy comes from team composition and synergy. You need to consider each monster's skills, elemental affinities, and attack patterns to succeed in battles. This is another game that encourages experimentation. Sometimes a less powerful monster with the right skill set is way more effective than something that's just brute force. Like Shin Megami Tensei, one of the standout systems here is monster fusion. You can combine your creatures to create entirely new monsters, inheriting abilities from both parents. This opens up nearly endless possibilities for building your ultimate team. It's incredibly satisfying to see your strategy pay off when your fused monsters crush a challenging boss or perfectly complement each other in a tricky dungeon. It could almost be considered Shin Megami Tensei Light. Okay, rough comparison, but there are similar aspects. Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince isn't just a spin-off. It's a full-fledged strategy-focused JRPG that appeals to both longtime Dragon Quest fans and newcomers who enjoy tactical turn-based gameplay. It's charming, strategic, and endlessly replayable. The perfect blend of nostalgia and modern design. Though if you are going to play it, it is available on both Switch and PC, but I would suggest you play it on Steam. The performance of the two is like night and day.
Act fast! We can win this!
Now, one of the most popular recent JRPGs, Metaphor ReFantazio, a game that perfectly blends classic JRPG vibes with modern polish. So I'm actually currently playing Metaphor, and while I'm not done the game yet, far from it in fact, I can see why it had so many nominations at the 2024 Game Awards. From the moment you step into its world, you can tell that this is a game that loves the genre it comes from. It has rich lore, colorful characters, and battles that feel meaningful every step of the way. You play as a young hero drawn into a kingdom on the brink of collapse, teaming up with a cast of characters who bring unique abilities and perspectives. The story explores familiar themes, friendship, courage, and doing what you can to become the brand new king. The writing is heartfelt, the dialogue strikes a perfect balance between humor and emotional weight, making you care about your party and the world they're trying to save. Combat is classic turn-based with a few modern twists. Each fight encourages strategy, exploiting weaknesses, timing your special skills, and coordinating party members for maximum effect. You know, typical Atlas JRPG fare. It's easy to pick up if you're new to JRPGs, but there's enough depth for veterans to experiment with builds, elemental combos, and unique abilities. And there's, I believe it's 5 different difficulty levels, so if you're not so good with JRPGs, go on to safety mode. If you're looking to be used and abused, go for the hardest difficulty. There's tons of options. And then the enemy variety keeps every encounter exciting. You're constantly adapting and thinking ahead. You're never just pressing attack. In fact, it's very uncommon for you just to use the basic attack button. Customization and progression are something that I love of Metaphor though. You can enhance your hero's skills, tweak equipment, discover powerful synergies between characters, giving every battle a sense of personal investment. Metaphor uses a job style system called archetypes, and it just bleeds customization. I had so much fun experimenting with the different ways to approach combat, seeing which classes would give which combo attacks, and I adore when a game rewards creativity. Metaphor ReFantazio is the type of game that makes you fall in love with turn-based JRPGs all over again. It's accessible enough for newcomers, but rich enough to satisfy longtime fans. If you're looking for a game with charm, depth, and strategic combat that rewards creativity, this one deserves your attention. Finally, let's talk about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, a game that masterfully blends turn-based strategy, emotional storytelling, and a dark fantasy world inspired by the French Belle Epoque. I'm aware this isn't a JRPG. Yeah, it's French, but I'm still on that boat that JRPG is a style of RPG and not necessarily from the country of origin. Though I know everyone is going to disagree with me there. But with that being said, let's talk about Clair Obscur. Set on the isolated island of Lumiere, the story revolves around the Gommage, a yearly event where a strange being known as the Paintress paints a number on the monolith, causing all individuals of that age to vanish. For 67 years, expeditions have been sent to stop her, but none have succeeded. Expedition 33 is the latest attempt. You get to control a diverse group of characters, including Gustave, a resourceful engineer with a mechanical arm, Maëlle, his foster sister and the youngest member, who seems to be the most powerful for some reason, Lune, a brilliant scholar and mage, and Ciel, a cheerful warrior. And we cannot forget about the greatest character to ever grace the RPG genre, Esquier. He goes wee, and then he goes woo, and then he goes zoom. I love Esquier, and I hope he gets his own side spin-off game. All of these amazing characters journey through a world filled with mystery, danger, and intrigue. Combat is turn-based, obviously, considering the video, but it has real-time elements like quick-time events and timed actions. This hybrid system adds depth and excitement, requiring you to actually pay attention in battle, and it makes it stand out. This is easily one of the most amazing turn-based battle systems I've seen in at least the last 20 years, and it isn't even close. The story delves into themes of sacrifice, family, and destiny, with each character bringing their own personal stakes and motivations. The emotional depth of the narrative is complemented by a hauntingly beautiful soundtrack and amazing voice acting. Some of the plot points though, well, you know what? I'm not even going to get into them. You have to experience them to know what I mean. If you're a fan of narrative-driven RPGs with huge amounts of world building and tactical combat, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is an absolute must-play. It's a hauntingly beautiful journey that will stay with you long after the credits roll. And that's it for today's list of 10 of the best modern turn-based JRPGs. Which one is your favorite? Or is there a hidden gem that I didn't mention that you think deserves more love? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I make sure to read every single one of them. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more of my future JRPG content. And if you're still starving for more, why not check out this video? I'm sure it's something that you're going to adore. As always, this has been Shinky. Thanks so much for watching, and until the next one, have a wonderful day.